Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Uplift Your Night 27th episode. I am Camille. I am working as a head of programs at Uplifters, and I'm very happy that you will be watching this episode tonight. So let me just start with introducing very briefly what Uplifters is and what we do, even if I'm sure most of you are already aware. So we are a nonprofit organization empowering underprivileged communities with online education and peer support. And what we do is that we offer a free online course on money management, personal growth, and mental well-being for domestic workers. So if you want to enroll, if you're a domestic worker and you want to enroll, this is very easy. You just need to go on our Facebook page and click send message. And then you will meet with our chat bot, and you'll just need to follow the instructions. So tonight is the 27th episode of our Uplift Your Night series, and we're delighted to be here with you tonight. And also, the first objective of this series is really to be together. Uplifters is first and foremost a community, and we want to be learning together and supporting each other. That's the very first objective of this episode, as all the other episodes before. So tonight's episode is a bit special as it is pre-recorded, which means that this is not a live broadcast. So it means that we won't have a chance to directly discuss your comments and answer your question this time. But we did consult with the community ahead of the recording. So we really hope that the discussion we'll have with our guest tonight will still reflect your concerns, your tips, and hopefully answer some of your questions about how to best set yourself up for success at work. So tonight's topic is about how to be happy at work and good at your job as a domestic worker. Is it about creating a healthy employer-employee relationship? Is it about having good time management skills? Is it about developing specific skills that will help you best meet your employer's expectations? Maybe it's a combination of everything. So we'll be showing you some testimonies, and we are very happily welcoming Jeanie Wong. She will be our guest for tonight. She's the client care manager at Fair Employment Agency that I'm sure most of you are familiar with. So Fair Agency is an ethical recruitment agency, and I will now welcome Jeanie to the live to the event. Hi, Jeanie. Welcome.
Hello, Camille, and hello, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. It's my pleasure to be here and to talk about such an important topic. We always say, like, for migrant workers, like, job is such a big part of life, and happy job, happy life.
Yeah, I think it's very true, especially for migrant domestic workers, knowing that most of the time they live at the place where they work. So I really like this statement. So Jeanie, I was thinking about starting with asking, like, reflecting a little bit about what success at work exactly looks like for migrant domestic workers, because I mean, like, especially today, at the time we're recording, the COVID-19 situation in Hong Kong is getting pretty bad, and we have a lot of domestic workers and employers being very concerned. So they are very stressful times, and we can only imagine how feeling safe and happy at work can give a sense of much needed stability, especially in these times. So we've been asking some women from our communities about their vision of success, actually, and I will be sharing with you and with the audience what they've told us.
Let's take a look.
So, what does success at work look like
Mm,
for you?
mm,
So, for Emma Tabangura, success at work
mm,
is when there is peace. And I
mm,
just highlighted this word because it was very interesting how many times it came up. And get along well with the family I'm working with.
mm,
We had Cherry who said, a successful working day for me is when I accomplish my work and did things right. It
mm,
makes me feel contented and satisfied, no matter how much I did, what I did, or what happened during my work, as long as I did my best.
mm,
So that's very interesting because it seems like there are like internal indicators of
mm,
whether a working day or a working situation is successful or not. Like
mm.
very like their own perception.
Yeah.
Um, for Butaya, a successful day for me is when I do my duties well and
Mm,
makes my employer's family smile at what I have prepared for them. When they
mm,
say thank you or the food was sumptuous, it's like music to my ears. Happy tummy, happy me.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
A
feeling that,
recognition and appreciation from employer. Mm,
yeah, exactly.
mm,
We also had Aljen saying, when you start your day with a feeling of gratitude from within, you'll be
mm,
able to make your day full of positivity and enjoy your walk. I am
mm,
so happy and grateful every day that no matter what kind of situation I was in at work, I can still keep myself calm and still. The
mm,
key to our everyday success at work will always start with ourselves,
mm.
which really echoes what I was just saying before
Peace of
regarding
mind.
the previous testimonies. Really, like peace can also come from within.
Mm,
Um, Success for me, so Rumjalei, success for me is having peace of mind and being happy in my workplace. I'm
mm,
grateful that I receive respect as a human being.
mm,
So there was a lot of mentions about respect. It
mm,
fuels me to do my job properly, and in return, I respect them too. Jasmine, she says, for me, success at work is being able to switch to work mode when I get up in the morning during those nights that I cried myself to sleep, probably facing a hard
mm,
situation. At the end of the day, being able to pull myself together and being
mm,
able to manage my course and accomplish my goal
mm,
makes
mm,
me feel like a winner.
mm. Like how do you overcome your ups and downs in life?
Yes, exactly. And I think that is the last quote I wanted to share about
Mm,
this vision of success. Success. So this is coming from Jen Lin.
mm,
Success for me at my current work is having peace of mind. So
mm,
one more time, those
mm,
moments they trust me of my tasks without needing to nag, but giving me my own space to
mm,
accomplish it.
mm,
Success is paddling on the same boat with your employer in order to achieve a harmonious relationship wherein both of you value it. When they respect you and you give the same amount, you give them the same amount to them of respect.
mm,
Success is when you both care for each other, welfare, and be more understanding. So my situation right now is a good definition of being successful at work, which makes me very happy for her. Yeah, so we'll stop sharing these testimonials at
mm,
least for now, and I'd be very curious to know what what that inspires you about.
mm. Yeah. So, thank you for posting this question to the community, and like, I really appreciate the response from the workers. So, from all these responses, I think I can summarize into a few things about like how success really look like to a worker. So, I think 3 points. The first one is something really about the basic, like she can fulfill her basic needs, such as having a proper room, proper rest, a respect from the employer. And then the second thing is about work. It's about like able to perform her job using her skills, and ideally, of course, enjoying this sense of achievement. And then the third thing is, as you also bring up, is that like many workers also mention about the peace of mind. But how does this peace of mind really come from? Is based on the trust and respect with the employer. So I think these are the three key things that I can see from the testimonials.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Jenny. Yeah, I think at some point it's very important to remind ourselves that there are some basics that you need in order to feel successful at work. What is very interesting too is that I can guess that healthy employment situation is very important for migrant domestic workers. But I can imagine that it is also important to employers that they also wish to create this long-term relationship with their domestic workers. So what would you say success is to an employer?
Yeah. So, I mean, when entering to employment relationship, like it's always two-way still, like it's about both employers and worker. So for employers, from our experience, I think for most employers, they they hire a domestic worker to take care of their loved ones, such as their children or the elderly parents. So they want to able to have this level of trust that the work will be done, and also able to trust the worker to take good care of their beloved ones. And then I will also think most employers will also consider it will be a success when they can finish the job. So at least for each employment contract is for 2 years. Actually, many employers, when they ring the agency, they're already telling us that they want to find a worker that's looking for long term. So at least I think they are at least looking for 2 years. That is the standard length of employment contract. So I think so able to take care of their beloved ones with the trust, and also a long term relationship. How the employers define success in the employment.
Thank you, Jenny. I think it's very interesting to see how both the domestic workers and employers, at the end of the day, their expectations, they really meet, especially about the trust, but we'll have time to discuss it a little bit more later. And yeah, of course, like employers also start the relationship wanting to create this long-term relationship. So I think it's also important noting that the intention is there from the very beginning, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So now that we have a better vision of what would success look like for both parties, how do we do that? How do we create this happy home that both
Yeah.
employees and domestic workers are looking forward to live in?
Yeah. So we talk about like how what does this happy home look like to employees and worker, and we know that actually everyone shares the same picture of happy home. It's not like there is really a different understanding of how happy home looks like. So for me, I will break it down into a few things. So the first one is like we always start with the basic. Basic is important. So basic includes such as having a proper rest, accommodation, and also getting paid on time. So these basics are really important, and so that's why like know your rights, like know what you are, what your rights are, and what your obligations are. Like get your information from like no matter from the reference consulate or agency, or of course uplifter. Like get the information to prepare for yourself. And then second thing is also I would suggest also to use credible agency. So because we saw that many workers also suggest about having a peace of mind. I think the idea of peace of mind also comes from the reassurance that you have a good agency to support you, to give you the right information, and also have your best interest in your mind. So that's why I would also feel like finding a right agency that would be very important. So not only giving you the right information, but also about like how do they charge you for the agency fees. These are also important questions to ask the agency. So yeah, then the other important thing, like we talk about the basic, and then the other one I also want to highlight is like we talk about how to be able to use your skills to perform at the job will give you this sense of achievement. So this is something quite important. I will like giving you to be successful in a job. So when we think of domestic job, we always see this as an umbrella term, but actually like domestic work, like there are really different areas of tasks that require different hard and soft skills. So I would suggest like first of all, know yourself is important. I mean, it's just really a personality thing. Different people really have different personalities and different communication styles or different ways of working. So, for example, some may prefer to work as a team, some may prefer to work independently, or in terms of job skills, like some may prefer to take care of elderly, childcare, or cooking, or different other areas of jobs. So know yourself is the first step, so that you can know what type of jobs that will be ideal for you, and then like this is how you can be successful at your job. Because if you don't feel motivated and enjoying the work you do, then you will it's really hard for you to be happy at your job. So yeah, so I think overall, like basics important, like rest, accommodation, salary, find the right agency, and then also know yourself to get the right job. So all these three things are the key factors that I think will help workers to paint the picture of a happy home.
Yeah, thank you, Janie. I really like what you say about being self-aware, and I think it's very important to really look at
Mm,
the job as a domestic
mm,
worker as
mm,
something that can be completely different from one
mm.
household to the other, depending on what your daily responsibilities and tasks are.
Mm,
And obviously, this is only after a few years of experience, maybe, that you can feel what you feel the
yeah,
most comfortable with, or what you feel
yeah.
the best skilled with. And I agree
Mm,
that it's always a very rewarding feeling, um,
mm,
to feel good at what you're doing. Um,
yes.
so we've also been asking the community about this skill
Mm,
aspect of their job. So I'll be
mm,
screening some testimonies
mm,
that will illustrate this feeling of being proud. This is what we're
mm,
talking about. So
mm,
Melody is telling us being good at my job. So to her, it's about being the best version of yourself,
mm,
especially taking short courses that you can use
mm,
at work. First and foremost, cooking and baking. So this is
mm,
this is what she likes, knowing
mm,
herself. Real eating happens 3 times or more a day, so it's important part of employers' lives, which is a very pragmatic way of seeing things. I really much agree with this. Um, they will value a helper who knows how to cook, bake, and budget to prepare a healthy but budget-friendly menu, which is also
mm,
part of, you know, um, dealing with the whole cooking
mm,
independently,
mm.
and something that is very appreciated by
Yeah,
some
yeah,
employers.
yeah. Something beyond the kitchen, like still
Yeah,
need to manage
exactly.
the budget, like how do you buy healthy and nutritious, and while also within the budget, like all these are skills.
Exactly. So it
Mm,
goes beyond like the cooking
yeah.
itself. Um,
Mm,
and so she concludes saying, for sure, your employer will keep you, and you will gain their respect, then their
mm,
trust, and then their love. So
mm,
again, back to this um,
mm,
willing to create a happy atmosphere, so the working relationship can last as much time as possible.
mm,
So that was from Melody. We also have one from Ami.
mm,
I cooked Korean noodles called Jap Chai. My
mm,
friend was ate a lot and said delicious. I'm a successful chef in my own kitchen.
Ooh.
Uh, which I really like too, because you can feel the ownership of the task. Uh,
Yes.
I mean, talking about her own kitchen. So
Yes.
I really you can really feel how,
The
you know,
proud. Yeah.
exactly. So cooking and baking is one,
Mm.
but
Mm.
as you said, Jenny, can be
Mm.
taking care of
Mm.
the little ones, taking care of the
Mm.
elderly. So there are plenty of learning opportunities out
Exactly.
there.
Yeah.
I just want to share one that was shared by Melody.
Mm.
Um, so she was suggesting her peers to actually go to the Culinary Arts Center Hong Kong. So
Mm.
they do have a Facebook page.
Mm.
And so apparently there the cooking and baking classes for
Mm.
migrant domestic workers are free. So they only need to buy the ingredients, and then they will
Mm.
be taught some recipes. So that was a very practical and nice one.
Yeah.
Um, and then when it comes to baby care,
Mm.
I'd like to just remind the community that we do have this baby care course at Uplifters, and I think FAIR is also sharing it broadly to their
Mm.
clients.
Yeah.
So all our alumni, so all the domestic workers who've completed our Prepare for the Future
Mm.
courses, they can access it
Mm.
for free. So you'll just need to contact us. You
Mm.
can actually WhatsApp our program officer, and she will help you join the next session. So we run monthly session. We start a new session each month. So
Mm.
this is one way a domestic worker can enroll. The other way is to speak about it to your employer, because the course has been designed so you can actually take the course together with your employer. And so the idea is that you would be, as the domestic worker, learning like technical skills on how to take care of a
Mm.
baby. But your employer will also learn communication techniques. So she or he will be able to communicate their expectations regarding their children, their baby, in a way that you both will understand each other. Because as you said at some point, Jenny, it's very often we're not only there to speak about technical skills, but soft
Mm.
skills like interpersonal
Yes.
and relationship skills.
Mm.
So that could also be a way to improve your skill
Mm.
when it comes to caring about babies.
Mm.
So I don't know, Jenny, if you want to be saying a little bit more about this, like, those soft skills
Yeah.
that you need
Yeah.
to kind
Absolutely.
of
Yeah.
build.
Yeah. So we talk about like when we talk about skills, we always think of the hard skills like how to do the cooking, baking, how to do the ironing. But actually, like skills uh, can also like I mean when it comes to domestic work, it's also about soft skills like the communication part. It's actually what we find the most important. Uh, Skills that will really make you successful and happy in the job. So I want to share like one story that we heard from the employer. Like he told us on phone that he said this worker is really a good person. Like he knows that like she has a good heart, very kind. But at the end of the day, like it's really hard to communicate with her. Uh, like the employer found it very difficult to communicate the instructions and like sometimes the instructions are not followed or like when they try to follow up they are not sure whether the worker really understand or the worker told them that she is on like the same page but then the things didn't got follow through. So at the end of the day the employer had to let the worker go. But like like the employer felt very torn about this decision because he feels like the worker is actually very, with a very kind heart, but it's also about really the communication that they can't really work as a team. So that's why, like, actually for this worker, like she has a really good experience here in Hong Kong for more than 10 years. Um, the reason why I want to bring this story is that communication is really the key because it helps you to build the foundation with your employer by having a good sense of workable trust. So that, like, life, sometimes you may make mistakes, or sometimes you need to ask questions from your employer to clarify instructions. If you have a good level of trust, then this can help you to uh, overcome these issues. So communication is, I would say, is really the most important thing that you can work on in order to help you to improve in your job.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing the story, and I'm very sorry for that domestic worker you mentioned. And I think it's a good story to show how key it is. That's one of the reasons why we have an entire chapter dedicated to communication skills in our Dare to Dream course. This is really key, and I mean, like, for everybody. I mean, it's very complicated to make yourself heard, because everything that you will be listening at, everything that you'll be speaking about, it's all through your own filters. So you really need to walk into the shoes of the person you're speaking with, and that is not necessarily something that you have taken for granted.
It's not easy because imagine, like, speaking in different languages and different lifestyles. Just not easy. Like, it's not something
Yeah,
to be take for
yeah,
granted.
and you're very right to stress that. I mean, like, even for people speaking the same language, sometimes miscommunication can happen. So when you speak different languages, it's, you have a greater risk not to understand each other. So I think it's important that you also be kind to yourself, knowing that it's something you can build. It takes time, it takes practice. It's not because you've been so-called bad at communicating with others at a time that could not change.
Mm, mm,
So it's very important to invest time to, train yourself
yeah,
to get
yeah,
those communication
yeah,
techniques, so you feel aligned not only with your employers, but it also
yeah,
be with your peers, with your
yeah.
family.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the same principle can be applied to employers. Probably your employer is first time hiring a domestic worker. He or she also doesn't know, I mean, there's no the perfect formula of communication. So probably your employers are also going through a trial and error process. Maybe you are taking care of, an elderly grandma, grandpa who may not be able to speak the same language as you do. Like, we all know that, like, there are wonderful relationships that turn out with elderly, that's, despite the language barrier. So we know speaking the same language, yes, it can be challenging, but actually there's something more to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're really right. I mean, when it comes to taking care of little ones or elderly, very often from the employer's perspective, you have a lot of emotions involved. Because this is something that you really care about, and very often, the more you have emotions, feelings involved in the conversation, and the higher is the risk to
Exactly.
misunderstand each other.
Yes.
So it's, yes, about being kind to ourselves, but also being kind to the other person who might also be dealing with sometimes contradictory feelings.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's really key. I wanted to show some testimonies about communication, but maybe broadly, this trust that
Yeah.
we all want to be building.
Mm,
Uh, So, how to build a healthy relationship with my employer?
mm,
So I unfortunately don't have the name of the person, but she
mm,
says, from my experience, it is important to have a good employer-employee relationship in general.
mm,
Both parties need to trust each other, be
mm,
open, have good communication, and of course, good listening skills. So this is
mm,
what I was saying, like being able to actually listen, the
Yes.
person is part of being a good communicator. It will avoid arguments that will lead to misunderstanding in the end.
Mm,
So consider each other's point of view,
mm,
respect and accept each suggestion to help maintain the household at peace again in many
mm,
aspects. So there is a lot about empathy here.
yeah.
And from both sides, like really going to the trying to understand that the perception of
Mm,
things might be slightly different for the other.
mm,
Um, we have Yesti Nabila Nuhana. I'm really grateful that I can open up to my employer. We have a nice communication which helps us understand each other. I also train my employer's kid to be independent and tidy up her own stuff. I don't want my employer to rely on myself for all. They
mm,
are independent, and my job is to help them, not to replace them. That's why we have a good relationship. We treat each other with respect and fairness.
mm,
So I really like this one because it shows that it's, even beyond communication, it's a posture thing,
yeah.
it's
Mm,
really being very clear on what your role is.
mhm,
And so the respect, the relation will be as horizontal as possible, even if
yes.
we are aware of the um, unbalanced power relationship.
Yeah.
But still, it goes beyond
Mm,
communication.
mm,
Um, Ellen Mae, she's saying, every morning I feel like I'm not just a domestic helper. Every time I sat together with the family I'm working with, I'm having breakfast with them. So in some families, the
mm,
relationship can be very close.
mm,
Every day I feel grateful and I feel like I succeeded in the challenges of being a domestic helper, having so-called not good employers. So maybe she had, not so good experiences before.
mm,
Um, so it goes back to the story that you were sharing,
mm,
and the ability to see
mm,
failures
mm,
as learning opportunities, even if
mm,
obviously this are hard feelings to manage. But
mm.
we're all, in a learning journey here.
Yeah.
And I'll keep this one for the very end because it was somehow of a recap.
Okay.
So yeah, trust is key, and I think it would be very interesting, Jenny, if you could tell us a little bit about why
Mm,
trust is that important.
mm. Yeah, I mean, like from the testimonials you shared just now, like actually many of them are talking about able to develop this balanced relationship with the employer. And I think this actually speaks the importance of trust because you want to, feel respected. You want to have a balanced relationship. At the same time, you also want to, having this sense of security, like feeling safe. Like I remember, like the worker mentioned about like she is able to, have a very clear role division, and also about how to train the children to, be independent with, the daily tasks. So I think like she must have a very good sense of like what will work, what will not work. And this is why like trust is important because if your employer doesn't trust you or the other way around you don't feel the relationship is secure enough, you won't be able to going these extra steps. So that's why like trust is so important here. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. Is there anything that you'd like to share about, how to build this trust? Like, so we've heard that communication is very key.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, could you go maybe a little bit more into details?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
we've mentioned, listening, expressing ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
what would be the things that we would like to keep in mind when it comes to
Mm.
communication with an employer?
Yeah, so I think like if this is really the biggest takeaway from this conversation, I would say communication is really the key. So when we talk about communication, I think many workers may feel like as long as I keep silence, then everything will work out its way. But actually, like this is I mean, this won't happen because communication is always a two-way street. Uh, communication is a mutual thing. Like it has to be reciprocal. So, of course, maybe you can stay silent for one day or for one week, but it also means that you won't have this peace of mind because you will always keep on thinking and struggling with the idea like, why this is happening, or oh, how come my employer doesn't understand me? So that's why it's not only I mean, listening is important, but then also like how to express yourself is also equally important. So it's a two-way street for communication.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, sometimes we underestimate how many things you can actually tell as long as you're saying like things
Mm,
respectfully.
mm,
Um, so I would, maybe another advice would be trying not to assume
mhm.
before trying.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it can be
yeah,
difficult, but
yes.
also I think asking questions,
Yeah, yeah.
one thing that I've experienced myself and as an
Mm,
employer was,
mm,
um, sometimes you might be giving instructions, but like
mm.
some part of the instructions are missing, right?
Yeah.
And that is just because the employer might have forgotten or might have assumed
Mm, mm.
that the worker knows.
Yeah.
But better asking questions than doing something that would not meet
Yes,
the employer
exactly.
expectation.
Yeah.
And asking questions is also seen by the employers as a mark of interest, right?
Yeah.
And curiosity, and
Mm,
like a mark of feeling involved in
mm.
task and in the relationship. So
Yeah.
asking questions is a very, it sounds like obvious, but actually it's a
Yeah.
good technique in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. I can share a technique about like how to ask questions. I know it can be quite intimidating to ask questions to your employer because you may like it may not be something that is quite instinct for you for workers to do. So like the first one is I would suggest is stay calm first, like think through what you want to ask and think through what is really happening, and then you can of course like first of all, like you can repeat the instruction of your employer. And as just now, Camille, you also mentioned sometimes employers may miss half of the instruction, or they are giving the instructions on a rush, so they may also not really having think through everything. So if you are trying to echo or repeat what's your employer's instruction, this can actually trigger your employer. It's like a mirror. You bounce back the instruction to your employer so that your employer also can think it through and give you the confirmation whether like this is really the thing that they want you to do. So I think echoing, so that means repeating your employer's instruction, is a good way to get clarification and confirmation. um, and I would really say like the a big no is don't say yes if you don't understand your employer's uh, question. Like the employers may ask you, oh, do you understand? So if you really don't understand, don't jump to say yes. Just use the tips we share, like repeat what your employers say, and then like getting a confirmation like, oh, is it what you want me to do? Then it's just a smart way of asking your employer without being too explicitly in asking your employer.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's a very good tip, and it's interesting because it's also a technique that you learn in coaching, just
Yeah.
mirroring what the other person said. So just by doing that, you'll clarify that the understanding of the instruction is
Yes.
the same. So I would
Yes.
really, really encourage you to try it out.
Yeah.
Um, um, and then I wanted to ask how, like, I can imagine that sometime, when some part of the information is missing, this is one
Mm,
thing, but
mm,
sometimes, instructions can be a little bit contradictory, or, you can get like different instruction from your
mm,
employer. So
mm.
is there anything that they could do without feeling, without appearing as being accusatory, you know?
Mm, mm. So I guess what's sometimes we do have some disagreements, or sometimes there may be some difficult conversation. That is bound to be happening, because there's always ups and downs, or in life. So I think like one important thing is like how to speak up when you really need to speak up. So speak up is important. So there are a few things, like of course you need to clarify first for yourself, like doing the preparation work. Like you need to understand what is really happening. So I would suggest you to gather some facts, like keep some notes about what is happening, like what is really not working out, how does that affect you. Try to keep some notes and prepare your talking points, and then really find a time to speak to your employer. So I think really by this time, these type of things probably may happen a few times. So it's easy to get discouraged, because you will feel like, oh, maybe I tell my employer a few times already, but she doesn't listen, or she won't like bother to care. So we may get discouraged, and this is the very same thing that we need to be careful. Like your employer may not be really on the same page here. So that's why it's important for you to speak up, find the right time. So like just some quick tips, like such as sending a quick message to your employer to tell them that, oh, there's something that maybe you want to discuss. When is a good time? So find the right time. That's when you and your employer are both calm and open to feedback, so that you can bring these important issues or observations to your employer. So let's say, for example, like what you think is a good time, let's say your employer coming back from work may actually be a bad time for your employer, because probably your employer may prioritize those evening for their children to check their homework or spend their evening with their beloved ones. So that's why it's important to find the right time with your employer, so that you can discuss these important issues. So when you are actually raising up your talking points, uh, that's why like preparation work is important. Like you should have already prepared some of your talking points. If you are very shy, I would also suggest, like you can write a script for yourself, like just have some bullet points about what you want to say. uh, be specific. Being specific is really the key, because like for example, like if you don't have enough food, like which is a very common issue among workers, don't just tell your employer I don't have enough food. Like be specific, like what do you mean about not enough food? Like do you mean that you don't have enough breakfast, or actually you are not having sufficient amounts of like portion for breakfast or lunch? So be more specific about the describe the facts, and then like more advanced is describe how this actually affects you and affects your work. Because I think for most employers, they want a happy relationship. Just remember the beginning of our conversation, like most employers would also want to have a long lasting relationship with you. So bring it back, like how, like what the question it is, and how does that affect you doing your work, so that your employer can understand how it affects you. And of course, like be prepared. Sometimes like these type of difficult conversations won't get through the very first time. So try also to think from your employer's perspectives. Maybe they also have other concerns. Give some time and be understanding with your employer.
Thank you, Jenny. It was super useful, and I think sometimes communication can feel like it's a natural thing, right?
Mm,
But
mm,
again, as we said before,
mm,
do not feel ashamed of
mm,
feeling the need to prepare.
mm.
Um, I myself wrote my notes when I was getting prepared to have difficult conversation
Yeah.
uh, with my colleagues at work, sometimes even with my
Yeah.
husband. When you have things that you really want to
Mm,
convey your message,
yeah.
um, getting prepared will really
Mm,
increase your chances to reach your
Exactly.
objective. Yeah.
Yes. Mm.
Thank you. It was a very nice concluding words. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to show a last testimony because it was very. I found it very powerful,
Mm.
uh, and it also serves a little bit as a conclusion.
Yeah.
So Siari Fitria,
Mm.
she says that success at work is when I enjoy to do my work. So that was what we
Mm.
were saying in the very beginning.
Mm.
When my employers trust me to do my task without nagging. So
Mm.
when you have this feeling of being independent in your work, when
Mm.
I can decide which one is important or which one I can do it later. So really, again, feeling the trust.
Yeah.
Success at work is when I look after the kid and the kid feel happy with me. So
Mm.
it's also about like, the very natural and simple feelings.
Mm.
Uh, Success at work is when my employer asks me to do something and I can do it properly and they feel satisfied with my work. So
Sense
the
of achievement and appreciation. Mm.
recognition and appreciation are key too. Is when my employer tell their friend that my cooking is so nice, something that is really tangible, right? Concrete.
Mm.
Success at work is when I do some mistakes and that instead of being angry to me, they choose to use it as an example to learn.
Mm.
So that's great when you can have the support of your employer. It's
Yeah.
even better, of course, but it's
Yeah.
also something that you can do by
Yeah.
yourself, looking
Yeah.
at a difficult situation
Mm.
as objectively as possible and think about what
Yeah.
could be done differently in the future.
Yes. Mm.
Um, Success at work is when they allow me to grow, allowing me to study, or even give me the chance to be a professional. So really think your journey as a domestic worker as a
Mm.
learning journey. And this is a normal thing to have more experience after a few years and maybe potentially
Mm.
work in different families is can also be a chance.
Mm.
But for me, real success at work is when I finished my contract with my employer. And even if I didn't want to continue with them, they will still give me a recommendation letter and the release papers. And I thought that was very interesting because we've been speaking a lot about trust and communication.
Mm.
But at the end of the day,
Mm.
domestic work is work.
Yes.
And so you really need to also prepare for the future and
Yeah.
make sure that you will get everything you need to start your next working experience with
Mm.
the best conditions
Yes.
possible.
Yeah.
Yes. So, well, thank you, Siari Fitria, if you're hearing us. And I think we'll slowly wrap up this very informative and inspiring session. So, thank you so much, Jeanie. I think it was very interesting um, how diverse the situations can
Mm.
be, and you can rely on very different things to feel happy at work and to be
Yes.
successful.
Yeah.
So maybe if something doesn't work as
Mm.
well as you would like, then maybe you
Mm.
can invest in another aspect of your work. So I think it's
Mm.
also good to keep that in mind. Uh,
Mm.
and before we end our broadcast, we often do this evening ritual together that the community
Mm.
is very much familiar with.
Mm.
This is something that we do in our free online course, Dare to Dream. And this is honestly one of the best habits that you can create in your life. So we
Mm.
share the simple joys
Mm.
that we had maybe the past day or the past week, and
Mm.
what made us happy
Mm.
and today. So Jenny, would you be happy to share with us what make you happy today? Even if
Mm.
you told me that you had a very busy day at work, given the
Uh,
current situation, but
mm.
there is always something we're happy about.
Yeah. So I think, like, first of all, like, I'm really grateful for having me in this session today. To able to talk about some of our experience and tips in building a good relationship with your employer and be successful in the job. Uh, just the remark, like, happy job, happy life. Like, this is really the key. So yeah, and really thank you again. And then another thing is, just now when seeing all the testimonials, it really makes me really happy, and I can feel is, the positive energy. It's the power. And I think many workers may come to, work overseas, with the goal and to earn more money to support of their families back home. And it's a very difficult decision because you need to be away from your families. But just now seeing all the testimonials, it shows the power and also the sense of achievement of the community. So I think this is very, very touching for me, and also just very uplifting to see how much have come so far. Then the last thing is, I also want to just say thank you to my families, to support me, and then at these days, stay safe. Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks a lot. And again, thank you for, your time with us and also sharing your expertise, which is extensive. So it was very useful. For me, it's the same. Actually, I'm very grateful that we had this session together. I really hope that it will give practical tips so domestic workers can try to better their working environment, because this is really what we're talking about at the end of the day. I think one thing I'm also very grateful about is, so I know the situation is very concerning now in Hong Kong, but I've seen, different organizations trying to meet and discuss how to help the best way they can those domestic workers who are facing difficult situations because of the pandemic. And I really like seeing people working together, and I really hope it will be productive in the end. And the third thing is a little bit more personal. I'm now based in Morocco, no longer in Hong Kong, where I lived the past 5 years. And so the COVID restrictions are a bit different. And the country just reopened 2 weeks ago, and my parents landed safely in the city I live. So I know how lucky I am to actually be with them now. So I'm grateful for that too. So I think we're at the time where we'll say bye-bye. Thank you again for your time. And it was very helpful. Do take care.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And
Thank you, everyone.
stay safe.
Yeah. Stay safe, stay happy.
Yeah. Keep learning. Thank you, Jenny. Bye-bye.